Odysseus and Penelope. Odysseus now calls forth the maids who have betrayed his household by associating or sleeping with the suitors. He orders them to clean up the house and dispose of the dead. Telemachus then pays them by hanging them, killing them, in the courtyard. Euryclea runs to Penelope to announce the return of Odysseus and the defeat of the suitors. The faithful wife, the perfect mate for the wily Odysseus, suspects a trick from the gods and decides to test the stranger who claims to be her husband. Crossing the doorsill, she sat down at once in firelight, against the nearest wall, across the room from the Lord Odysseus. There, leaning against a pillar, sat the man, and never lifted up his eyes, but only waited for what his wife would say when she had seen him. And she, for a long time, sat deathly still in wonderment, for sometimes as she gazed, she found him, yes, clearly, like her husband, but sometimes blood and rags were all she saw. Telemachus's voice came to her. "Mother, cruel mother, do you feel nothing, drawing yourself apart this way from father? Will you not sit with him and talk and question him? What other woman could remain so cold? Who shuns her lord, and he come back to her from wars and wandering after 20 years? Your heart is hard as flint and never changes." Penelope answered, "I am stunned, child. I cannot speak to him. I cannot question him. I cannot keep my eyes upon his face. If really he is Odysseus, truly home, beyond all doubt we two shall know each other better than you or anyone. There are secret signs we know, we two." A smile came now to the lips of the patient hero Odysseus, who turned to Telemachus and said, "Peace. Let your mother test me at her leisure. Before long she will see and know me best. These tatters, dirt, all that I am caked with now, make her look hard at me and doubt me still." Odysseus orders Telemachus, the swineherd and the cowherd, to bathe and put on fresh clothing. Great-hearted Odysseus, home at last, was being bathed now by Eurynome, and rubbed with golden oil, and clothed again in a fresh tunic and a cloak. Athena lent him beauty, head to foot. She made him taller and massive too, with crisping hair and curls like petals of wild hyacinth, but all red golden. Think of a gold infused on a silver by a craftsman, whose fine art Hephaestus taught him, or Athena, one whose work moves to delight. Just so she lavished beauty over Odysseus's head and shoulders. He sat then in the same chair by the pillar, facing his silent wife, and said, "Strange woman, the immortals of Olympus made you hard, harder than any. Who else in the world would keep aloof as you do from her husband? Aloof means distant, unfriendly. If he returned from her from years of trouble, cast on his own land in the 20th year. Nurse, make up a bed for me to sleep on. Her heart is iron in her breast." Penelope spoke to Odysseus now. She said, "Strange man, if man you are, there is no pride on my part, nor scorn for you, not even wonder merely. I know so well how he, appeared boarding the ship for Troy, but all the same. Make up his bed for him, Euryclea. Place it outside the bedchamber my lord built with his own hands. Pile the big bed with fleeces, rugs, and sheets of purest linen." With this she tried him to the breaking point, and he turned on her in a flash, raging, "Woman, by heaven you stung me now. Who dared to move my bed?" No builder had the skill for that. Unless a god came down to turn the trick, no mortal in his best days could budge it with a crowbar. There is our pact and pledge, our secret sign built into that bed, my handiwork and no one else's. An old trunk of olive grew like a pillar on the building plot, and I laid out our bedroom round that tree. So there was a tree that was in their plot of land to build. And I laid out our bedroom round that tree, lined up the stone walls, built the walls and roof, gave it a doorway and smooth fitting doors. Then I lopped off the silvery leaves and branches, hewed and shaped the stump from the roots up into a bedpost, drilled it, let it serve as a model for the rest. Okay, so you see how that tree served as the bed for them, and it can't be moved because it's in the ground with roots. I planed them all, inlaid them all with silver, gold, and ivory, and stretched a bed between. A pliant web of oxhide thongs dyed crimson. There's our sign, I know no more. Could someone else's hand have sawn that trunk and dragged the frame away? Their secret, as she heard it told. Her knees grew tremulous or weak, shaking and weak. Her heart failed her. With eyes brimming tears, she ran to him, throwing her arms around his neck and kissed him, murmuring, "Do not rage at me, Odysseus. No one ever matched your caution. Think what difficulty the gods gave. They denied us life together in our prime and flowering years, kept us from crossing into age together. Forgive me. Don't be angry. I could not welcome you with love on sight. I armed myself long ago against the frauds of men, impostors who might come, and all those many whose underhanding ways bring evil on." So she had to have some way of knowing it was Odysseus. What she's saying is over the last 20 years, there's been dozens of men who've showed up at her door and said that he was Odysseus, that they were Odysseus. And so she had to have a sign that only she and Odysseus knew. If she told any other man, move his bed into the hall, they wouldn't have known any different, and they'd be like, okay. So only Odysseus knew that that bed couldn't be moved. That also shows that she's faithful, that no other man shared that bed, because no other man knew that secret. No other man had been in her bedroom. But here and now, what sign could be so clear as this of our own bed? No other man has ever laid eyes on it. Only my slave, Actorus, that my sent with me as a gift. She kept our door. You make my stiff heart know that I am yours. Now from his breast into his eyes the ache of longing mounted, and he wept at last. His dear wife, clear and faithful, in his arms, longed for, as the sun warmed earth